was the show. The show wasn't going out in the street to do stuff in Ferguson. The show was, I've been delivered. And that was disgusting. Because it didn't do anything for anybody. We got to stop these pious things that we do in front of the cameras because we think that that's going to bring some more members and all this stuff. Those of you who are pastoring here, I know you probably don't have churches big enough to do it, but if you think about it, let it go. Let people go to a quiet room and confess whatever they got to confess, but don't put it out there. Stop shaming people for stuff. It's not helping us. It's not going to stop them from being killed. We need to understand that none of these things, no matter how well you behave, no matter how much you believe the word or anything else, it is not going to stop anybody from shooting you right now. So you got to get a new mindset. The second thing is that you need to start making connecting structures. You might think about, I don't know if I want to get with those Black Lives Matter people. I don't know if I want to get with this organization, that organization. One of the reasons why the black church doesn't have the strength it has right now is because it has no organizational structure to rely on. These organizations have all failed. They've fallen apart. And so it's easy for the politicians to come in and pick you off because they can promise things to one person. They don't have to promise anything for a group of people. Organize for longevity beyond a hashtag. This is really important. Because a hashtag probably lasts about a week, maximum 2. I'm on social media a lot. And then once this dies, and once we get through of looking at the reign of Black Death, with Philando Castile when his girlfriend filmed his murder. That's just, it's almost like it's a horrible porn of Black Death that keeps rolling. But everybody forgets and we move on to the next thing. And we're expected psychologically to take care of this. Look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you up here that I'm so weary in my soul over this, that I know I got to be with some other people and start to think about what is the long-term thing that I need to work on. How do I change this? It's why I write. Because writing for me is a way to connect to people and to connect and start to exchange these ideas, to talk to my students, to do these things. What are you doing in your churches? You are seminary students, and you're lucky because your seminary has got more people in it now. Most seminaries are dying. Honestly, if I had my choice, I'd be at ATS asking, why y'all training people if they're not doing nothing? What you training for? But, your president won't me ask that question. And this one is a big one, okay? This is one of my pet peeves. If you know people who are supporting prosperity gospel people, you need to start preaching to them 24/7 that they are in the wrong, that they are supporting white supremacy, and they need to stop. These prosperity pimps have sucked our churches dry. They have followed after this bale of white supremacy. They want money. They want power. And they don't care how they get it. But if this election hasn't taught you all anything, it should teach you one thing. That they came out of nowhere and swooped in and in 8 years got themselves a presidential candidate. Because he's the epitome of wealth, even though we know he ain't got none. He is that shell of what all these people want to be. He ain't got no money, y'all know this. That's why he ain't doing no tax returns. He don't want to see people how much he done ripped off everybody. But he is the perfect preacher. You need to start thinking about Donald Trump as the perfect prosperity preacher. He promises things, he ain't got no scripture to back it up, and he taking your money. I'm just saying. Take back the strategies that the religious right stole from the civil rights movement. This is important. And this is where it gets serious because, people talk about, how can Black Lives Matter work? And it's not going to work because it's just hashtags and all that stuff. That's just part of what needs to happen, okay? It is a very important thing. I am all for it, okay? Let me be clear about where I am right now. I am for Black Lives Matter. But I need to also say that one of the things that happened with the religious right, why they became so smart about everything, was that they took a change. Falwell and all those guys in the 70s and 80s started training people to run for local office, state office, national office. In the 70s, we had all of these leaders, and some of them came out of the church. Black mayors of cities, Congress people, local, state level, some on the national level. But now we're not training people to run for anything. We're not getting our young people ready for that. And so as a result, there's a chasm. And what you've allowed these people to do is take all of the protest, all of that stuff. So when they're showing the bloody babies at you and talking about same-sex marriage and everything, and some of y'all churches are going, okay, you're right. They've stolen from what black people did first. Okay, understand this. So we need to get our organizing strategies back. We need to start thinking about how do we structurally put people in place. And this is going to be hard because all the gerrymandering and everything else that's going on, they've completely gutted it. They've made sure that white supremacy is going to last because they fixed it while we were asleep. And some of the churches let this stuff happen. Two last things. Get to the polls, but hold Hillary accountable. If you in here and you go vote for Donald Trump, you can excuse yourself right there now. Or you can come up here and let me lay hands on you and I can knock that thing off you. If we do not hold the next president accountable, see, because y'all were, one of my friends is here, so he's going to know what I'm about to say. Some of y'all were more involved in the symbol rather than the signs. There was a symbolic black president, but he didn't do a lot for the signs. One of the things that was really interesting to me was at that funeral, when Obama presided and all this stuff, and I've been thinking about all the deaths he's been presiding over. And Carol Walker, who's a famous black artist, said something the other day that was just very striking. She said it in, I believe it's in Cincinnati right now, in a catalog for her recent artwork, and she said, this has all been death by proxy. That they really wanted him, but instead they've been killing us. Now that's the scary, all you old black folks out here know, that's the first thing you all thought when he won. But since then, it's been proxy deaths. Over and over and over again. And we did not hold him accountable to do more for us. And now we're going to have to come back to the well and do this again. We have to engage more than just symbolic associations. There are so many people who want to show themselves in black churches and act as though that they love us and they care about the word and they care about all this stuff. But they don't care. That's not been the point. The point has been to use people. And so what I want to ask you tonight is to begin to search yourself and ask yourself, what's your church like? What's that place that you worship? Because you're probably here because this is a seminary thing and you saw me and I write a lot about these kinds of issues and you thought, how are we going to bring this together? But I'm here to challenge you and to say, where are you going to help move this needle forward? Because we can't keep dying like this. We cannot keep being killed on this rapid scale. This is just like when a man was lynched today. I've been thinking about hanging this sign out of my office window, except I don't need people to know where I'm at Penn. Because they'd probably be coming to lynch me. That ain't no joke. We're in horrible times right now. This is not a good time for black people. It's not a good right time for white people here either. Because you have a choice. Your choice is to open up your mouth and start speaking. Because if you are silent while all black people are being killed like this, you are right there with white supremacy. You're part of the problem. Your friends are part of the problem. I've been dropping folks like flies off of Facebook. Because I know who my friends are now. Because I know they might want to have a drink with me, they might go to dinner with me, but when push comes to shove, they are not going to support me as I go through this thing. And so it's time for you to start to reflect. Where are you? What side are you on? Are you with Colin Kaepernick and all these young people right now who are taking a knee because they're not going to stand up? And they shouldn't stand up. They don't have to stand up. But you see how angry people are at them? That's because the white supremacist, racist God of America is uniquely joined to nationalism. That's a whole other talk. Or are you going to just stand up and go like, I don't care, it's all right, it's going to be okay? Think about where you are tonight. You have a choice. It's a crucial moment in our nation's history. It's a crucial moment for our black churches. Which side are you on? Thank you.
Come on. Let's thank Dr. Butler again for just an absolutely keep not only our sister in prayer, those of us who understand this, she needs protection. Be very, very clear that there is a reason why you don't hear voices like this.
Amen.
Going back just a few years, those of us who remember when Dr. King was assassinated, Dr. Butler, it quieted a lot of black preachers.
Sure did. Sure did.
Jeremiah Wright, who's a dear friend of ours in the seminary, when he made when that got exposed, a lot of people who knew him over the years moved away from him.
Sure did.
So as we hear this, and we're going to take questions, know that you have heard a voice tonight. Cherish what you have heard. You won't hear a lot of people talking like this. You will not hear a lot of, she says she's not a theologian, but she's a theologian. God is speaking through this sister. And so, but keep her not only in prayer and in the support, because I can feel this right now. I can feel this right now. If she is speaking and writing and doing what she did tonight, there are a whole lot of people, not only external to our community, but internal to our community, who would not be in support of what you've heard. But with that, let's take some questions. We have Black Lives Matter class here. We have theology. We have all kinds of, Dr. Fields.
Well, I just want to thank you for taking a risk. You've taken a huge risk to come out to New York Theological Seminary to keep it 100, letting us know what's real for real. And it's a good time for you to be here. I know earlier I said we're so excited that you were here. And the reason why I said that, I know you have a somber message, but it is always important for us to get the word out to our students, because a lot of times we take for granted everybody was here for the 60s. They were here for the 60s, but they were babies. But you brought out a lot. So my question to you is this. What gives you that courage at this, for such a time as this? That's my question.
That's actually a good question. I don't know. I think I had some really tough ancestors that stand with me. But I think it's because I'm a historian. And I said, in one of the Twitter attacks that I got, I said, well, it ain't never going to be as bad as being at the bottom of a slave ship. See, when you know this story, you can't look away. And for me, it's just there. I don't claim to have some kind of great thing. There are days where I feel horrible every time somebody gets murdered and I see these hashtags coming over and over again. I get, honestly, it's depressing. But I actually think one of the things that gives me strength is I get out of this country. I'll be the first one to just say this up front, is that I understand why Baldwin and them all left. I understand why people leave this country, because it's heavy here. And right now is one of the heaviest times we've had in our nation. And so when I get out of here and I get some breathing room, I get rejuvenated. When Michael Brown happened, I wasn't even here, I was in London. And I watched all that roll out on Twitter, and I was just like, man, I don't even want to come back, because I'm done. I mean, so it varies from day to day, but I would say to you that I feel like somebody has to do it, and I don't know why it's me, but I know that I have the pen of a ready writer. And the tongue of a ready writer. And that's who I am, and my parents taught me well. I mean, my parents raised me on, I was reading The Final Call and everything else. I was not a normal kid by any stretch of the imagination. But my parents, held me out of school when they were protesting and all this kind of stuff. And so my parents are 100% too. And I thank them for that, because they taught me that at home. And so for all of that, I think that's why. Yeah.
Questions?
God bless
Yes.
you, sister. A couple of things I wanted to share. Let me just say this in terms of contextualizing the question. I'm Yvette Flunder, Bishop Flunder, and was the person on the panel that talked about homosexuality at the AME event. And I heard what you said, and I shouted all over my living room after I got back home. So in my physicality, in my presence, I represent essentially a woman of African descent, a same-gender loving woman, and a woman in the house at the same time. And this supremacy, along with its bruised and fragile patriarchy that's attached to it, has been an enemy to all three of those things in me and in my life. How do we have a conversation about the intersections of that abuse? Because in all of those realities, people are being killed in many ways, professionally, fiscally, and literally killed by the same killers. My question is, how do we connect them? Where's the intersectionality for all of those?
Yeah, no, that's great, and thank you, Bishop. I knew you were out there, so I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and tell this story, because, that day I could have. I know they ain't never gonna invite me back again, but it's all right. The intersectionality part is really important, because right now what's happening is that, while we see the spate of, I want to talk about this in a sort of connected way, while we see the hashtags of African Americans being killed by police, what we're not seeing are the killings of transgender people. Right now, I just read about one today. It was somebody in El Paso. I think it was a soldier that killed her. And so this is a moment, and I honestly have to tell you that I don't know that conversation could happen in the church, because the patriarchy is so embedded, and that is all locked in with that white supremacy thing. I think those conversations have to actually come outside, and whether that's universities or whether that's social media, all this kind of stuff, whether we begin to write in different ways, where there begins to be a platform. I really don't know that it can happen in the church, because the church can't even deal with just regular black folks dying. I mean, it's really, I hate to say that, because I sound like a pessimist, but I am a pessimist, because I know that I'm still watching churches where they would not let me stand up in a pulpit like this. Okay? That wouldn't ordain me. I don't want to be ordained no way, but, I mean, that's not my calling. You see, I'm glad, I want every woman that want to do it, please, take your call and go. But it pains me. Because you're right, and it is killing us. It's costing people money, because every time those bishops come after you or pastors come after you, they're trying to get your money. And they don't want you to flourish. They don't want you to flourish. But maybe I'm naive in this one way, but I just believe you don't even have to believe in Christianity. You reap what you sow. And those who continue to sow in your direction that are wrong, they're gonna get it. I mean, it just happens. But I do think that the conversation has to come out. It has to also be in churches like yours, where you can have a different conversation. And I think this is what the future is going to be. The future is not what we have had. And that, I firmly believe that in about 10 or 15, 20 years, I mean, I live in, Philadelphia right now, you got nothing but empty churches. Nothing but empty churches. They're converting them to apartments and stuff right now. And so what is going to happen? What you were doing is going to last longer than what some of these jacklegs are doing.
Yeah, Dr. Butler, it's always good to see you and hear you. And I appreciate your critique of the church. I think that it doesn't go far enough, though. Obama did not preside over the death of the black church. The black church has, most black churches have never had prophetic political sensibilities. And, you know, we know it's true because most folk in here have been, you know, talking about leave it to Jesus. And, you know, which is saying that, you know, it's not up to us. I'll just leave it to the Lord. And, you know, I know it's in Revelation and all that, but, I mean, that's shot through our theology. But I want to give a couple examples. For instance, Martin Luther King, you got to remember, the reason there's a progressive National Baptist Convention is because they turned on Martin Luther King. They didn't want nothing to do with Martin. Well, you know, you're not the only one in here. And then, on the other hand, you know, Martin Luther King, when he was doing his Poor People's Campaign,